Hi, welcome back to Bride Society. I'm Rebecca and this is Laura. So this week we are talking about what we wish we'd known. So this is what we wish we'd known before we started planning our weddings. So both Laura and I have been through the wedding planning process from start to finish for our own weddings. And we are here to pass on to the next generation of brides and grooms to be as to what we picked up along the way that we think might be useful hints to help you have a smooth, happy planning journey.
So I think it was the same for both of us, that when we were newly engaged, we went out and bought wedding magazines. We're excited. Either of us hadn't done it before. So we wanted to get some inspiration. And pretty much every single wedding magazine has a wedding timeline of so many months before you should be booking this and 3 months before you should be booking that. They are, well, hopefully they may have changed, but I don't think I've ever come across one that is accurate. Would that be fair for you as well, Becky?
It's complete cuckoo, like upside down, back to front, totally unrealistic.
Yes. So ignore them. I think if you have specific suppliers, venues, things like that you know you want, get them booked in as soon as you can, when you know you can, when they're free. Just ignore those timelines, because if you wait until 3 months before till trying to book your photographer, it's highly likely, if you're after a Saturday wedding in the summer, they're going to be unavailable. So ignore them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's what, like, weddings cost more than you think. I know, like, people say this, don't they? And like, you sort of know from TV and all that kind of thing. People go, oh, weddings are so expensive. As soon as you say the word wedding, they jack the price up like hundreds of pounds. And I'm not saying that's true, but yeah, it's just, I think if you think about every single item that can go into a wedding, it is extortionately expensive. And obviously, you know, what choices you make along the way obviously impact that, and how having certain things, how important that is to you or not. Obviously, you can have a budget and still do this, but it's more, I think our pre-warning is about managing your expectations about what amount of money will get you what amount of wedding stuff. Even just the venue and feeding your guests, they're your biggest expense. So really, or is it like have a little cursory look at things before getting your mind, heart set in stone too much on the type of wedding you're then going to start imagining and building up in your mind, just to avoid some disappointment and budgeting issues.
And kind of along those lines, our next point is about Pinterest. Now, we love Pinterest.
We do.
Brilliant inspiration.
We're on Pinterest.
We are. Link below. But just a word of warning. Again, manage your expectations, possibly. Suppliers will be putting their best work on Pinterest to show off. There may be style shoots, so it's where a group of suppliers come together and kind of really go to town on what they want to show you they can do. Great if you've got that budget to be able to do that. But just be warned that these pictures you see for inspiration may be very expensive to achieve. Now, again, there'll be different ways of doing it within different budgets. So don't think I can't achieve that if you see something you really like. But just, it's like a shop window. They want to put their best work out there. You're seeing kind of these incredible pictures, but they may have incredible prices alongside them.
Well put. Yeah. And DIY, so like doing things yourself, like making these centerpieces. You've seen something on Pinterest that is of inspiration, but you're like, oh, I can do that myself. And that can be a great way of saving money, getting the look you want for less. But again, we're all for encouraging that. We have, as you may have seen, lots of DIYs on our website to help guide that process. But firstly, it doesn't necessarily save you money, especially if the thing you would be ordering is in bulk, because sometimes there's a big discount when you're ordering for like a lot of guests. So do the maths first. But it's really the amount of time DIYs take as well. It's always longer than you think.
Always.
Period.
Without a doubt.
Always. No matter what. Even when you watch our videos, you'll see that things are sped up, things are cut. Like it's, if you watch one of our videos and it takes 3 minutes to make something, but it doesn't actually take us 3 minutes to make it, right? Like you're just seeing the how-to part. So bear this in mind. Maybe make one mock-up of a thing and time how long it takes you, because if you've got 100 guests, you've got to times that by 100. So yeah, bear that in mind. And also bear in mind taking on too many DIYs that have to be done close to the wedding date. Again, we both had the desire, I think, to take on as much of it ourselves as we could. Partly that desire for us to want to put our personal stamp on it, as well as saving money. But yeah, you can take on too much, and that is too close to the wedding date, because things like perish and that kind of thing. So sometimes spending might be worth it. So yeah.
I do remember, because I did most of my flowers myself for the wedding, but I do remember the night before the wedding when we'd arranged to have drinks and socialise with people who travelled for the wedding. I was having to leave them to go and put flowers in a cake thing to surround the cake, and I remember being up, I think, far too late the night before the wedding doing those extra little bits and bobs, just because I wanted to do all these DIYs and do everything myself. So yes, just sometimes quality time is better than saving the little bit of money potentially that it could be. But something to save money potentially is going to wedding fairs. So obviously there aren't many wedding fairs happening at the moment in person, but there are potentially some virtual wedding fairs happening. And at events like that, some suppliers may be offering discounts or competitions. So if you go along or tune in to a virtual one, you can enter competitions. You might be able to get 10% off if somebody who you want to book already is offering kind of an on-the-day discount if you book them there and then. Make sure you are happy with the suppliers if you are booking people there and then. Do some research beforehand maybe. There might be some small discounts and savings or things you can win, extras, things like that. Because I know you were very successful.
I was very successful. I have to say, I know Laura's just talked about that point, but that was definitely one that I threw in there because that is a big one for me. I really capitalized on the competitions. Yeah, I did do very well. But yeah, and you may have heard us mention in another video, like make yourself like a new email account, like maybe with a joint with your partner's name or something that you can give out at these events. So if you don't want to kind of be sort of spammed by wedding stuff, like constantly to your personal email address, make a new one for these events, go along, hand that one out. And yeah, just any supplier that looks at you that might want your information, don't be like, oh, I don't want to give my information out. Just go for it. Go for it. It's my advice.
Top tip. Yeah.
And in addition, just to add to this is because obviously getting to wedding fairs right now is kind of difficult. We have got a video up on our channel from when we last went to the National Wedding Show in Birmingham, but they're in several locations around the UK. And they have got more dates coming up later this year, touch wood. But we vlogged our way around that wedding fair. So if you want a bit of a taste about what to expect, the sort of things that there, what happens, just get a bit of a buzz for it, do check that video out and we'll link that below for you as well. Right. The next thing is just kind of a word of warning, is that if you find suppliers that you'll like and you're keen on, and you've started to kind of pursue them to book them, you've maybe asked some cursory questions, and then you're not hearing back from them. There's a couple of weeks have gone by, no word, you followed up, there's no word, or there's a disjointness in their response, like they're not really answering the questions you asked. Take that warning sign that if they're not kind of on it when they don't even have your money yet, once they do, why would they carry anymore, right? Like they've already got your business. I fell a cropper to that with one supplier. You know, it's something that I really did learn through planning my wedding. Obviously be reasonable, particularly during peak wedding season. You know, they're going to be busy. It's not that I'm saying, you know, if you don't reply within 24 hours, I'm gone. But yeah, and particularly if it's a consistent behavior, just look out for that red flag.
So moving away from suppliers and kind of the booking parts of your wedding and onto your guests, although your wedding day is obviously a very important day to you, it's not as important, unfortunately, the reality is it's not as important to maybe everybody you're inviting. And so you would definitely, I would say, 100% have to chase up some RSVPs from people you invited. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I think there's always at least one that's sitting out there, right? Just wedding rule.
There will be some people who have maybe been married recently that will understand the importance of it. So you'll probably get those back straight away.
Yeah, they'll be more on it.
So you'll be given a date, depending on the type of wedding you're having. It's likely you'll be given a date by your venue where you need to confirm final numbers for things like catering and things like that. Don't make your RSVP deadline that date. Put it in advance of that, maybe a few weeks, a month maybe, depending on how long you've got between sending out the invitations, just so you have that buffer time to chase up those RSVPs, because you will have to.
And even despite all your best efforts of leaving the buffer, chasing people up, having the answers, by the time W Day comes around, like, it's quite possible you'll have some last minute dropouts, you know, illness, I guess, particularly in the age of COVID now, like, you know, quite debilitating illness reasons that people can't and shouldn't come, you know.
Don't want them there.
You know, obviously there's very, very valid reasons. When we say people don't show up, it makes it sound a bit arbitrary, but yes. So, I mean, because you've given your final numbers to your caterers, to your venue, that money is gone. So depending how soon these people let you know, if it's maybe a week ahead that they know they can't make it anymore, maybe what you can do is something that I was actually able to do, was kind of upgrade some of your guests. So maybe like, so some of your evening guests, maybe now you can invite them to the full day and the food part and stuff, so they can just sort of slot in and no money's lost, and you get to spend more of the day with that person. But as well, like Laura, you had a experience with the venue and being able to feed suppliers and things, didn't you?
Yeah, so I had 4 people drop out quite close to the wedding, so we didn't have any evening guests, so there wasn't the possibility of kind of bumping anybody up to the day. So because that money was already spent, the food was already ordered, the venue said that they would use that food, because we'd already paid for it, to feed the suppliers more than they were going to get anyway. I mean, we were feeding our suppliers, our photographer and videographers, but they were going to get basically what we were eating. So that was an option, just kind of reallocating the food to somebody else.
So I've now got a picture in my mind of, prior to this, that your suppliers were sat in the corner eating like a bowl of gruel, like Oliver style, just like that they got like this little pot. And actually, that's also a good point, is that I think when you first start planning your wedding, you don't necessarily realize or even contemplate the fact that you will probably need to feed your suppliers something.
Yeah, but I feel like the money we had to pay to feed the suppliers wasn't the full guest amount. That'll vary venue to venue, I imagine. They'll have procedures, what they normally do in place. And normally you'd only be feeding the people that are there all day. So like your photographer, videographer, things like you don't have to feed your cake supplier and things like that. So something else to do with the guests you're potentially inviting to your wedding is that, and even non-guests, there will be expectations and opinions from a lot of people. So as soon as you announce you're engaged, everybody has an opinion. Everyone has an expectation, whether it be who's going to be invited, where the wedding's going to be, who's going to be in the wedding party, things like that. So just be prepared to face those comments, be ready with your reaction, because it might be welcome opinion and expectations, but also you might not want to hear it, especially if you've only just got engaged, you haven't even set a date yet. People are getting ahead of themselves. We have also done a video about kind of this topic, how to handle opinions on your wedding planning, so we'll link that as well, so you can check that out for some more detailed advice about how to handle those.
Yes. And along with that, it's just that, again, all these people around you, you know, that are interested and love you, and it's kind of almost astonishing, like how much people love a good wedding. Like I know, particularly for my now husband, that was something he kept saying. It was just, he couldn't believe like how much people love a good wedding. Like that was the phrase. Like, and it's just like, you know, how happy people are for you, and you know, yeah, just it. As much as I say, it can come with the expectations and all that stuff that Laura was just talking about, it is also, you know, an unexpectedly wonderful thing. And it can almost be quite a nice bonding thing, you know, because you can do a lot of the, like, if you're making stuff, you can get people involved, you can do that together. That also helps cut down the amount of time DIYs take, depending on how much you're drinking as you do it. But yeah, you just might, I suppose, be offered more help than you might initially expect to be. But
potentially now as well, because there haven't been weddings, or weddings have been limited for so long, I think everyone is desperate for some good news and a celebration, and what's better than a celebration of love? And yeah, so
yeah, you're so right, everyone's going to be chomping at the bit to help you.
And finally, now I don't know if this is something we didn't know about before we were planning our wedding, because it's something that everyone always says, and you're like, yeah, I know, but your wedding day goes by so quickly, and we mean it just goes by so quickly. It's a whirlwind. I mean, I know you think, well, your ceremony time was the morning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you even, I mean, do you feel like your day just flew by?
It did, but because I had heeded this warning you're about to give, so I had made a plan. So I will let you give the warning.
Okay. So please just take a moment in the day, plan for even just a few minutes, where after you've had your ceremony, it can just be the two of you. You can just spend a few minutes together, taking it all in, being excited together that you're married now. Because I know, thinking back to my wedding, when my husband and I were doing kind of talking to everyone, we separated and took a table each, and there weren't even that many people at the wedding. I hardly saw him all evening. So
you're like, oh, hi, I recognize you.
So just slow it down, take a few minutes, or a couple of hours in your case, Rebecca, as you can explain in a minute, just to really appreciate the day.
And I think, yeah, because I had been so conscious of the possibility of this happening. Like, as Laura said, like our ceremony, I think, was at 11 a.m. or half 11. It's been like almost 7 years now, so forgive my slight like, what time was it? But then after that, we had a good chunk of time in the middle where we went off around the city and had photographs in places that meant things to us, and that really just gave us that time together. And I know you might think, well, you've only got this one day with all these people that come from all over to spend with you, and you're going to have your honeymoon together to have the time with each other. But I think just having that bit of time together does help things kind of stop a little bit and help you absorb. And it's because when I thought about it afterwards, I feel like the day is so filled with so many new different experiences happening back to back to back to back, and so many people congratulating you, and it's so euphoric that your brain has no time to process anything that's happening. And I think that's what makes it feel so rapid. And so that moment when you stop and have a bit of time out, it just gives your brain a bit of time to catch up and really then be in the moment. But my other side tip to this, just quickly, is to maybe, if you can, spread the wedding out over an entire weekend, which is what I did to get around this again. So maybe there's dinner the night before with some family. I guess in the US that would be a rehearsal dinner, but for us UKers, like, yeah, if family have come from out of town, doing that, maybe a breakfast the day after, not that you're necessarily paying for, but just that you've maybe organised, said, hey, come along to this, we'll be there, just to kind of eke it out a bit more.
It's funny you said that, because when I was talking to my husband about this topic, his comment was he was really surprised that people would want to spend the day after with you, celebrating after the wedding. I think he thought it was just a wedding day, that's it, that's enough, they're done with you then. And then when people wanted to see us the day after, he was like, oh, okay. So yes, just make it as long as possible. You've been planning this for probably a while, so make the most of it.
Particularly if you've been caught up in the whole COVID postponement stuff. So make the most of it when it actually happens. Eke it out, take that platform. It is your time. Like, own it.
So those are just a few of the things we think would be helpful for you going forward planning your wedding, to make the most of your planning and make it as smooth as possible. If you've got any comments on any of the things we mentioned, leave them below. If you've got any of your own tips that you've heard from people that have been married that you know, or if you're recently married and you're still hanging around, great, keep sticking around. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.